Growing up, my favorite video game series was Resident Evil. Now don't worry, you didn't start up the wrong video. This is a Zelda video, but Resident Evil was the one game series I played the most consistently from the first one, well technically Director's Cut, to the Resident Evil 4 remake. So those games would always bring heavy amounts of nostalgia. There was one game that was played almost just as much as that entire series, and in my tradition of playing it, was tied to something I cherish more the older I get. That game is The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, and later, the remake on the Nintendo Switch. When playing it back then, it just happened to be my favorite game to play on the go when my family would go on road trips or during summer vacation, and even as an adult, when I'd have time off from work, I'd play it again. As I now know, there was a deeper meaning in the game that was more than suitable for those times, that just taught me about how to live my best life in general. Now, I've heard criticism, especially of the remake of Link's Awakening, that it didn't add much to the experience, but for me, I feel making the game in general to be experienced by a new generation is more than enough to justify the remake. But it does also add more that enhance my personal experience of the game. I feel as I get older and play it more and more, I just get more out of it. Now, I may be biased in my take, as Link's Awakening is the first Zelda game I've ever played. I say that because there's a theory I've heard, and I believe as well, about how the first Zelda game someone plays usually ends up being their favorite in the series. My introduction to the Zelda series was watching my cousin play A Link to the Past back in the day, around the time I was in elementary school. After that, my parents got me Link's Awakening, and every summer break from school, I'd always start a new game on it. I'd always 100% it too, getting all the pieces of heart and seashells to upgrade the sword. I always loved how quick of a game it was, and at the same time, in depth enough to not get bored of it with repeat playthroughs. As a musician, it seems so obvious now that in general this would be my favorite Zelda game regardless of it being the first one I played. I say that because of its use of music as a main component in its story, especially how well the music adds to the nostalgic escapism of the game. To recap the story, which I will discuss spoilers, so if you like to play the game, I'd recommend doing that since you can play both the original version and the remake on the Switch. But the story takes place directly after A Link to the Past. In it, Link travels the sea to train for future challenges, but is shipwrecked after a storm and awakes on an island. Most of the people who inhabit the island believe there is nothing more than the island on the world, except Marin, who is fascinated by Link as he is proof of there being more to the world. From there, Link is told that in order to leave the island and go home, he must wake the windfish with the 8 instruments of the sirens. I'm sure you see where I'm going with the music part of this. So you get an instrument with each of the main 8 dungeons you complete, not including the color dungeon, which was added in the GameBoy Color version of the game. Funny thing is, I originally played the original Game Boy version, but also played the Game Boy Color version when my brother and I got Game Boy Color. For years I played the Game Boy Color version without knowing about the new dungeon because since I played the original so much, I didn't read everything in the game and noticed the new book in the library. I actually didn't know about it until I played the Switch remake, and once I saw that, I loaded up the old Game Boy Color version and loaded my brother's save to know he actually beat the Color dungeon all those years ago, where my last save didn't have it completed, but I digress. More than any other Zelda game, it feels so rewarding to get each instrument, and each of them plays their part of the Ballad of the Windfish. As a musician, this continues to hit home for me, as it's almost the same feeling I feel when making a song and it gradually comes together. This is also a big thing that led to a consistent part of the traditional Zelda formula, where music played a big role in the progression of the story, like the ocarina in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, the Wind Waker in, Wind Waker, the pan flute and Spirit Tracks, the harp in Skyward Sword, and the singing in Twilight Princess. Well, at least that's how I see the wolf howling. As a music producer, a big part for me is also finding out which specific instruments are good to use together for each song I make, as that could be a journey in itself, and finding what fits perfectly feels like such an accomplishment. So when I play Link's Awakening now, in a cheesy way, I feel as though I'm helping Link make the beat. Okay, not really. Not like that. But if that joke was too much for you, I understand you want to check out right now. I don't blame you. But for those still with me, not just with the story is the concept of music so impactful with a sense of nostalgia, but also the music itself that was composed for the game. Music like the sword theme played at the beginning when looking for your sword after Link wakes up in Marin's house. Like every time I start a new playthrough and hear that theme, it fills me with joy and eagerness for the adventure I'm about to embark on. But also kind of like a weird sadness for knowing of its inevitable end and a return to reality. Mabe Village also has a theme that fills me with nostalgia, as it feels like a perfect melody that conveys innocence. Almost like it's a vibe that inhabited my subconscious since childhood with its innocent, playful melody. And I feel the instrumentation in the remake enhances this even more, and is definitely the best version of the song, especially when you hear the horn play the melody. It's almost like a feeling of seeing the hobbits in the Shire before the journey of Lord of the Rings. Honestly, not much else makes me feel that feeling that reminds me of those carefree days of being a kid. Of course, the Ballad of the Windfish is another theme that invokes the same feelings as Mabe Village, but acts as the other side of the coin, where the Mabe Village theme brings you back to the dream or memory of better times. Ballad of the Windfish wakes me up, but does still remind me that it all lives on in memory. Also, a side note, I swear when growing up with this game, Windfish was always one word, but now I see Windfish as two words in both the remake and the original on the Switch. Let me know in the comments if you experienced this Mandela effect too, so I know it's not just me. But anyway, other themes I always loved was like the grooviness of the Mysterious Force theme, at least the way it felt in the Game Boy version. As one of the few gripes I do have with the remake is that it doesn't really capture the same essence of that particular song. Like, what they did was still good, but maybe it's just something personal to me, which is what drove me to remix it, as you can hear right now, as this groovy lo-fi remix. Now, what may be a hot take I have in regards to Zelda music is that the Telltale Heights theme, another classic from Link's Awakening, conveys the same epic vibes of adventure at the same level as the original Zelda overworld theme, at least in my opinion. But I'd say most of my other favorite themes in Link's Awakening are the dungeon themes. Which, by the way, did you know this was the first Zelda game where each dungeon had its own theme? But of course, I have to mention the strongest part of the remake has been mentioned before with the discussion of music in Link's Awakening, and that is the 6th dungeon. To give context, so in the story, you're getting the instruments to help Link get back home with the help of different characters on the island, especially Marin. So all is fine and dandy, as it feels like maybe Marin will join Link in his travels after leaving the island so he can help show her the world she so eagerly wants to see outside of the island. But you're told to go to the shrine before the next dungeon to learn of the truth. You go there and get this weird cryptic message that if Link wakes the Windfish so he can go home, the island and everyone on it will cease to exist, including Marin. When he goes outside, the owl says it's not sure if this is true, but you can feel that it is. And if it is, Link can never help Marin make her dreams of exploring the world come true. So now, in Link's shoes, it feels that this is challenging you to continue, and as you do and you go into the 6th dungeon called the Face Shrine, you're met with this song. In the original game, this song conveys a spookiness that always felt unsettling to me as a kid. But back then, I didn't fully comprehend or fully empathize with Link to understand the gravity of the situation. The remake added to this part perfectly for those like me who are now adults playing the game. Those who understand and also feel the connection here. And how couldn't you, with this magnificently stunning string orchestra that plays? I've never heard a C minor chord played with so much power at the start of a song. Every time I play the remake again and hear this song, it feels like a punch to the gut. It feels like something I have to sit and process. The Face Shrine theme, to me, feels like that moment in childhood when you first learn about the concept of death. In the end, this is what it feels like. That moment served as metaphorically in the story, like learning that as you continue through life, the people around you will change and not be there, whether it be from them passing or just from growing apart. Like when growing up and getting out of school to see how most of the people you saw on a daily basis will move on with their lives as you do with your own. Another thing I picked up from Link's Awakening was the value of dreams. Dreams can be another part of life to be cherished, as they can also serve as a break from the world, and depending on what you see may be nostalgic, as they may show something or someone you missed from your past. I can only speak for myself, but the dreams I tend to have usually feel so much like day-to-day life, but I find value in them. I've talked about in my Majora's Mask video about how I lost my father a couple years ago, but I've had dreams where I still see him, and it feels mundane as if nothing ever happened. When I awake, I'm sad to realize it was just a dream, but I'm happy that I had that dream because then I got to have another moment with him. There is a value in the reality you can feel in dreams, of course assuming they're not nightmares, but thankfully I don't have those too often. It's crazy how this game can make me feel these deep feelings, from a numbing nostalgia to immense sadness. Pretty much make me reflect on what feels like past lives. Old friends and family that I don't or can't see anymore, whether they've passed away or we've lost connection and grew apart from each other. And how the memory feels like it might as well be a dream. But it also has me appreciate my time right now too, and do better each day to not let meaningless things get to me, because a lot of those things I won't even remember tomorrow. When looking back on today with the nostalgia I'll feel for it in the future, I'll mostly remember the good times that made this time unique, and maybe even some of what may be bad to me now, but in hindsight will be seen as something that was good in the long run. It's hard to know for certain what will stand the test of time, especially in our subjective memories of day-to-day life, but always doing our best to make the most of the current moment is what matters most, because time, just like Link, is always moving forward, and if it weren't for them, nothing would have to change, for the worse, but also for the better. Change begets change, and we always work towards improvement, but doing so will inevitably change more than we bargained for. And all we can do is find the best parts of the current life we're living to make the most of that time before it becomes a past life. Thank you for watching this video, and please comment your thoughts on this and on what game or art has made you feel this way about nostalgia, change, or life in general. And please like to get more in on the conversation as well too. Also, if you just want to see the game, I have links in the description for the full gameplay footage from when I played both the Game Boy Color and the Switch versions for the creation of this video. I have plenty more videos in the works, so subscribe if you'd like to see more. But thanks again for joining me here. I am Paradroid, and I'll see you on the tube side.